Welcome back to Books and Build. Today, episode 3, we are going to be checking out my third published book, Planet 737. This is a sci-fi book, so it is a little bit harder to build like it is for books like Blood of the Coven and Searching for Home. So this video may be a bit shorter than the others, but it's still just as important. As always with these episodes, I'm going to throw up a spoiler warning now. If you have not read Planet 737, you can follow all the links in the description to go buy the book or read it for yourself on, believe it's on Amazon Kindle. So you can find it on Amazon Kindle, Amazon, and on Barnes & Noble. And go read it for yourself before continuing, because obviously, spoilers ahead. I give this warning every time. It just makes sense. Spoilers ahead. So yeah, just prepare for that. Now, knowing that there are going to be spoilers ahead, let's get into this, and let's start with just let's just start with a little touching base real quick, because yes, like I said, this is a sci-fi book. Because of that, it is a lot harder for me to make most of the characters. Nassar and Mirza do not have characters, because their designs just do not work in Sims. I have some ideas and some reconstructions in my head, but I've never been able to get them on paper perfectly. Obviously, this book was heavily inspired by the DPR Collective, so I take a lot of inspiration from their music videos, their character designs themselves, and if you look at the diner in the No Blueberries music video, I take a lot of inspiration from that music video alone. The diner in the book is basically the same as the diner there, as well as the dream sequence. Very similar to that music video. So if you want to see where I pulled a lot of my inspiration from, go watch a lot of the DPR music videos. DPR Lives Is Anybody Out There music videos definitely heavily inspired a lot of this as well. So go check those out if you want to just see a decent amount of inspiration. But let's start with you guys by showing you guys the main characters of Planet 737. Our very first character here is Ashton Nakamura. He is based off DPR Live. Most of these characters are based off someone in DPR. I think about half of them are. So Ashton was very much based off of DPR Live, Hung Dabin, when he was during the Is Anybody Out There era. So he's got the little hair bun and this hairstyle on Dobbin that I absolutely adored. Dobbin's long hair when he had it in half up, half down. One of Dobbin's best looks, in my opinion. With Ashton, the big thing I wanted is I was going for a very specific look from Dobbin. It wasn't actually from any of the music videos. I believe it was a fashion shoot that he did. I'll throw up a couple of pictures of it. And that hair color is what I was trying to get across in the book. Obviously, there's no good way to get that hair color here. I think this was another option I was going to go with, but this was too much on his pale skin. So that's why I went with this kind of more faded brown, like it was pink and now it's faded and the dye didn't work properly. That's the kind of look I was going for his hairstyle. And obviously the piercings and everything, he's just very similar to Dobbin in a lot of ways. And he has his wedding ring on, though I believe in the book I did mention a necklace. I believe the problem is with this particular jacket I have him in to fit that blue coat I was trying to get him in. I couldn't for the life of me find a necklace that worked with it. It glitches through it. So that's why I ended up just giving him a ring instead of the necklace I wanted to give him. But yes, I describe him throughout the book as having his blue coat. At some point, I believe he loses it, but this is kind of the vibe I was going for him. Kind of casual, little bit like the blue is the standout color that he has here. That's the vibe that I was going for with Ashton. For his aspiration, I went with soulmate. This makes sense given that he absolutely adores his wife. Jasmine is the absolute world to him, and he would do anything for her. Hence why he also has the trait faithful, he has loyal, and given the dumbassery that is Ashton, he has impulsive. Because yeah, I'm gonna go chase after this guy who says he has my wife, but obviously probably doesn't. He's a little impulsive, a little reckless, but that's just because he's passionate and loyal. We love Ashton, no matter what, even if he's a little dumb sometimes. That's my main character, and I love him. With Ashton, obviously, we have Spencer. So I realized Spencer I never actually gave a last name to. There's several characters I never ended up giving last names to. That's on me. I forget sometimes. With Spencer, he is based off of DPR Ian, Christian Yu, and Christian had a very specific style for most of his initial, his first albums, the Mito albums. And that's kind of the style that I based Ian off of, was more off the Mito album style. I did want him to kind of have that kind of, a little bit of a punk feel to him in his outfit and his styling, and that's what I was going for with with Spencer. Could just make Spencer's last name Spencer Ian and just call it a day. So yeah, Spencer has his leather jacket, his simple fit, nothing too fancy about him either, because he spends most of his time traveling, which is why I gave him the aspiration Star Trekker. Spencer's whole thing is he wants to go out and explore. He is jotting down notes on planets and figuring out all about these planets. But alongside that, I gave him the loyal trait, the artistic trait, and the brave trait. Brave for everything he has to go through with Nassar and Mirza. Artistic, you see that in his photography and in his art pieces. I realize that I have given several of my main characters the trait of drawing as a sub-trait and never delved further into it for my characters. So I think I'm gonna have to do that in one of my next books. We'll work on that. Now, alongside these two was their other best friend, Owen Hull. Owen, I originally based off DPR Rem. But after everything that went down and just the fact that Owen became, like, I didn't know much about DPR Rem, honestly. Like, as much as we knew Live, Cream, and Ian, Rem was kind of the one that none of us really knew anything about personality-wise, it felt like. You never really got to know him in depth. And that kind of helped when everything happened and things blew up and all that stuff. Because by that point, Owen had become his own character, and I had kind of moved some things around and shifted Owen in a way to where he'd still kind of had Rem's look and, like, facial features, in a sense, but his personality was completely different. And the biggest thing with Owen, the way I had him, is Owen was abandoned on a space station and raised by the handyman of the space station. So I needed him to look a little scraggly, a little kind of, like, not well kept. That's why he's got the kind of beanie, he's got the scruff. I did initially have some dirt on his face and everything, but I opted to take it off, just because I still think that you get the scruffiness of him here without needing to have the dirt overlay on top of him. His color ended up being green when I was designing him. For some reason, green just really fit with Owen's style. And he is just, like, he's never really, like, he's very casually dressed. He reminds me of a bro, in a sense, is kind of what Owen reminds me of. And that's just kind of the way I saw him. His aspiration is, of course, Master Handy Person, being the one who works on the ships and everything and tinkers with everything. That is just the perfect aspiration for him. He's very charismatic, handy, and well-balanced. The thing that I loved about Owen's character is he's, like, Ian is overly cautious and Ashton is not cautious enough, and Owen felt like that pretty good middle ground for the two of them to pull them back to center to get them to focus better. When Owen's around, they think things through a lot more. That's kind of what I was going for with Owen's character as a whole. And again, I really like the way Owen came out. He is such a sweet, sweet character. I kind of wish he had been showcased a little more in the book than I had him. But it is what it is. The book's finished. There's no editing. Now, the beautiful thing about Sims is when working on Apollo's character, based off DPR Cream, I really needed to get across the fact that Apollo is a little bit weird. So, like, Apollo is based off Cream in the sense of Cream's music videos, less Cream as a person. Like, there's a lot of Ashton that I based off of just what I could sense from Dobbin in a spiritual sense, reaching out in that sense. And kind of just the this is gonna sound woo-woo bullshit, I know, but the reaching out to the higher self and everything, and kind of feeling out the vibes of people through that spiritual sense. I am a practicing witch, it's what I do. Dobbin is the main person I did that with. With Cream, I just simply based it off his music videos. And the thing with Apollo is I needed him to look a little bit off. I needed his, like, I can't do the limbs. There are some mods that can do that, but I don't have them right now. And the biggest thing was I needed his face to look just a little off, a little too long, eyes a little too wide. Like, I believe the way I described him in the book is that if you look at him at a glance, you don't think anything of it. But if you look for too long, it starts to feel off. Because Apollo has a alien ancestry, I needed to get that feel across. And that's why I put him in this long coat, not just because he is wearing the duster when they meet up with him in the book, but also because it does kind of throw off his proportions a little bit here, and it does give that uncanny valley feel when looking at him. Because that was Apollo's big thing, is just a little uncanny. But he's just a sweet guy, and so his aspiration was happy life. He just wants to live a happy life and enjoy his life, and that's kind of the vibe that you get in the book when everyone's talking about him before you meet him. As well, I put stoic, open-minded, and geology lover. Now, I couldn't find the right trait for this, and geology lover is what I went with, because what it really is the way I was thinking about it with Apollo is he's more focused on, he wants to know more about space, but not in the Star Trekker way or any of the other like traits that you see in Sims. He wants to know more just what's out there, different people and everything. There are a couple of like the popularity traits that might have worked, but with his love of other planets and the things on other planets, geology lover felt like the closest to the trait that I was looking for Apollo. And now the final character is Jasmine Nakamura. I didn't have a exact design for Jasmine. I gave her the name Jasmine, obviously, because Dobbin had this whole thing for a while there of finding his Jasmine or his girl or his love and everything. He had that kind of thing going on for a while there because of his song Jasmine, so I thought I wanted to give her a more like coastal flowery name as it was, because the Nakamuras are from a coastal planet, and the Nakamura family history in this book is that they were sailors and fishers for this village. They were the village heads, and they were the one taking care of the village and doing all the sailing and everything. So I wanted her to have something that felt coastal, and then I had the idea to use Jasmine because it just kind of fits. And then from there, I just kind of built up her design. Her design was very simple. I wanted her to not, like, just kind of, like, as bad as this sounds, I just needed her to be just average. There's nothing, like, majorly special about her other than her eye color, which I believe Ashton mentioned several times in the book. But she was just a simple person. There's nothing, nothing stand out in a bad, not in a bad way. Like, she is just there. She is just very pretty and just kind of a person. But yeah, I just needed her to look like she would fit with Ashton, and like if you saw the two of them together, you would go, oh, that makes sense, or I see that, I can picture that. And so that's kind of the vibe that I was going with for her. It's just, I was purely going off vibes with her. And of course, trying to keep the ocean aesthetic with her, with the blues, the greens, and everything. I wanted her to feel like she is from a coastal village. That is the whole aesthetic of her. Which is why her traits similar to Ashton. She has faithful. She also has generous and child of the islands, because that just felt very fitting. As well as neighborhood confidant, and you see that at the end of the book when she is still doing her duties as the village head. She is always there for her people and her community, and she is absolutely the most generous and wonderful person you have ever met. Is kind of just the sense I wanted to build around her. She is just a humble and a good person, is what Jasmine is. Fiercely loyal and willing to do what needs to be done, obviously, but also just Jasmine is kind of the vibe I went with for her. So Jasmine and Ashton were the main two that I really spent the most time kind of like nailing down in this book because they were such pivotal characters. These are the two I spent the most time on. Like I said, with Ashton, I really did base a lot of him off the Dobbin and just what I gleaned spiritually from Dobbin's presence and everything, which is why I do love this book so much. While yes, it is based heavily off DPR, these characters did become characters in themselves, and they became their own people, and I pulled this inspiration and these parts of these people, but with those, I built and bloomed my own characters out of them, and I love every single one of these characters. Now, from here, we have their ships. Now, we're gonna start with Spencer's ship. If you can't tell, I very heavily base Spencer's ship off of the main ship from Jedi Fallen Order, I believe it is, was the first one. Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. Those two games are some of my favorite games of all time, and I heavily based this off the ship in those. Cal Kestis' ship was my main inspiration for this build. So you're going to see a lot of similarities between this and Cal Kestis' ship. I found somebody who made the build, so this is what the outside is supposed to look like. There is a second wing underneath that would also be coming out as well, but it's a little bit harder to see here in Sims. But this person did an amazing job of building the ship. I will throw the creator name up. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's in my gallery. So I used this as the outside, and then from there I built the inside to fit more what I was planning on the ship to look like. So right off the bat, when you enter, I honestly think I should have made the space a little bit narrower, but it's fine. You have the sectional area here that Spencer spends a lot of time sitting at. This was his little area where he puts his pistols and his equipment and everything. Then you had the navigation section here with more seating for people to sit around and go through. You have the cockpit, of course. This would be where Spencer does most of the driving and everything. Driving, flying, whatever it is you do in a ship. Yeah, so there's not much to this. This was also one of my earlier builds, similar to Searching for Home, so there's not as much. Plus, I lost, honestly, my initial build. I lost my initial build and then had to redo it from scratch. This section I originally had a lot of plants and everything in, a lot more just Spencer's things filling this area. You then have a little kitchenette area that is easy for them to use. And then you go back here into the back area. You have this room, which is a simple bedroom with some glitching furniture. Woof. But a simple bedroom and bathroom combo. And then I believe over here we have another bedroom. Yeah. This is the extra bedroom. This would be like the guest room. The other one would be Spencer's actual room because it is attached to the bathroom. And then back here you of course have the cargo hold with all the storage and everything that Spencer has for all his stuff. This is where he does a lot of his work. And then here, for long distance travel, you do have like an isolation pod of sorts. So when you're going into hyperspace and hyperdrive and everything and you need to just sleep through it, you have this pod to sleep through as well. Like I said, it's not a very big build. There's not a lot to it. I honestly built this while working on the book to help me just get a feel of Spencer's ship as I was walking around it. Especially because I wanted it to be like Cal's ship, but I wanted to have some differences. It is still very similar, but it does have a little bit more of Spencer's feel to it. And so yeah, this is where you spend a majority of, like, where Spencer spends almost a majority of his time. So you imagine it's got a lot of comfort and, like, space to it for him to just wander around in. Because Spencer, unlike Ashton, didn't have, like, a house. He just had his ship. That is all Spencer had. And now, the final build for this is Ashton's ship. Now, the hilarious and the beautiful part about building Ashton's ship, because this has gone through many, many iterations. I was in the middle of building this ship when the Curved Walls update first launched. That's how long I had been working on this build. When the Curved Walls update launched, I lost my mind realizing that this would be so much easier to build Ashton's ship. Now, obviously, this is a little jank. It's not the most amazing ship ever. It doesn't look pretty, but it is just kind of a rendering to give you guys an idea of what it looks like, kind of the vibe of the ship as a whole. Now, the reason the Curved Walls update was such a game changer for me was because of this section. Because of this section here. If you go and watch DPR Live Dobbin's Legacy video, you have this moment where he is sitting against a glass wall looking out. That inspired one of the scenes in my book and is kind of one of the like catalysts for how this book started. And I wanted to get that kind of vibe in this ship. And so I needed the curved walls, and when that update launched, y'all, I was ecstatic. I was so happy about the curved wall update, y'all have no idea. So coming into the ship, you have this long entry hallway here, and then you have off to the side, you have a bedroom, the simple bedroom, little beam locker. This is the closest cutlass style weapon I could get to Ashton's sword. I did actually draw the design for Ashton's sword. I will throw it up. But this was the closest I could get to it. And giving the room the kind of blue glowy feel with this light felt very fitting for the style I was going for Ashton. Across from this, of course, you have just a simple little bathroom. Nothing fancy, just enough to make it work for being on the ship long distance. In here, this is the main room area. This is, again, the big curved window. There was seating here. I think I lost the mod or the content somehow for it, but there was like a sectional seating here at some point. This is where the lockers are that Ashton has to get into and work with. And then over here is the simple little kitchenette and area. So much of the Is Anybody Out There album was orange coated. So have been a lot of Dobbin's albums. Is Anybody Out There, Giggles, Senses. There's a lot of orange I've noticed with Dobbin. Because of that, though, that's why I went with the more yellow and orange aesthetic for the ship. I kind of wanted to keep that color scheme and vibe a little bit. It ended up being a little more yellow than I intended, but, you know, I tried. Down here, through this little hatch and chamber, is the meditation pod. This now wasn't quite how I wanted it to go. I did want to build more, like, scaffolding and metal stairs around it, like in the music video for, I think Legacy is where you see him standing on the edge of it. I want to say it's Legacy. But that, I couldn't quite do it here in Sims, especially with the curved walls. I was still getting used to it at the time. But this kind of gives you the idea of what it would have looked like in that bottom compartment with the meditation chamber in it. Going up from here, of course, you have the cockpit. This one I had the most fun building, honestly. Like, getting the industrial kind of vibes, getting the tech and everything. This was fun to build. To give the cockpit the real feel it needed, I really enjoyed building the cockpit for the ship. But yeah, it's just a simple little station here. It's a one-man ship, so it has a lot of stuff, but it's only got one spot for controls kind of feel. I really liked the way that the design of this came out. And it gives you the scale of going up from here to down to the hallway and him jumping out the back of the ship and everything. It really gives you guys that kind of feel so you can be in the ship with him a little bit. Now, also in this, the ship probably also could have been a little narrower, but it was harder to do to get these curved walls to work the way I wanted to if I had made the ship narrower. I tried a million things, trust me. I worked on this ship for well over a year in Sims to get the image down. This is what I ended up with. But I'm really pleased with it, honestly. I'm very proud of this ship design in particular. It came out absolutely beautifully, much better than I honestly thought it would. For a Sims build, and especially back then when I was still getting used to building Sims, this was a game changer for me and everything. So yeah, that is all the builds and everything for Planet 737. Like I said, it wasn't a lot. There's not a lot that I could have done in Sims for this book, but there were some things that I was able to build to use Sims to help me with the book. Unlike my previous books where I built all the builds afterwards, most of these builds and these characters were being designed in Sims while I was writing, and they've gone through so many iterations. I hope that you guys enjoyed getting this glimpse into the book, though, and getting this glimpse into my creative, brain for all of this. And if you haven't read Planet 737 yet, please, please, please go read it. I am really, really proud of that book as well as all my books, really. You can follow the link tree in the description to get access to all my social media, to keep an update on when the next books to build will be coming out, or when I finally finish my next book and publish it. As always, I will keep you guys posted. Hit the subscribe button down below if you want to stay updated on videos to come, and thank you for watching. I really enjoy doing these kinds of videos for you guys, and I honestly cannot wait for the next one.